Wondering how tough it is for you to take a couple of tough losses this weekend after being on the exciting run that you have over the previous multiple weeks. What's that like? Are you able to compartmentalize, or do you find yourself losing sleep? How's that go?
Well, I haven't lost too much sleep, but I do ride the emotional highs and lows of the season. I think that immediately after the game, certainly hate losing, but can step back and really process and see the good things that are going on, and also evaluate some of the things that we need to improve upon to make sure that we start winning these close games. But certainly we've played a lot of close games this week. Came up on the short end of a few. And, it was, I think, a little bit of a tease to get to 500, then fall back beneath. But by and large, I think I focus on the positives and start, identifying the areas that we can continue to work on and improve. And hopefully we keep going the right direction. And next time we get to 500, we get much above 500.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Now, when you're watching the games, are you the guy that gets fired up and starts the high five chain, or is that somebody else in your circle?
No, that's we have some laughter amongst our front office group. There've been a couple times where JD gets really fired up and will give us a pretty solid or hard high five. I'm pretty unemotional until there's a big moment. We hit a walk-off home run or something like that. I celebrate just like all of our Ranger fans celebrate, which is a lot of fun. But over the course of the game, the course of 162 games, I try not to get too excited. I think that's part of my playing background, is that I know the highs and the lows. And, even when we reach 500, I knew that we have tough games ahead of us, and that it was going to be hard for us to, we may go backwards before we go forwards again. But I think, progress is measured in really big increments. And I think that that's where we're trying to look at the big picture here and understand that there are positive things happening. We've got a lot of work to do, but nonetheless, things are going the right way, especially given where we started.
Well, see what, do you get a little superstitious watching some of these games? I mean, I know you grew up a big Rangers fan. Now you're working in the front office. I remember when you were sitting in calling one of the innings with Jared and I, it's probably about a month ago now, and you were saying, hey, I mean, if we take the lead during this inning, I might have to just sit in for the rest of the game.
That was more tongue-in-cheek. I really am not that superstitious. It was one of the things that my first pitching coach when I was with the Rangers, Oral Hershiser, told me there's a fine line between superstition and routine, and you want to have routines, but you don't want, in this game, be too superstitious. If you can't get the right smoothie or sandwich at the exact time, before a game in Cleveland, Ohio, you don't want that to throw you off for the rest of the day. So I don't tempt the baseball gods. I try to stay pretty even for the most part, but I'm not superstitious. I don't have to stay in the same seat. I don't have to drink the same drink or watch the game the same way every night. I believe that if you have good players and you make good plays, you'll end up winning more games.
There you go, Rangers general manager Chris Young with us here in the GBag Nation. Now we're in Cleveland, getting ready to take on the Guardians. Now your very first start against then it was the Indians, of course. 3-0 win, and you went 8 shutout innings. What do you remember about that start?
It's actually funny you guys mentioned that. I remember that start very vividly. I think we were coming off a pretty significant losing streak. I don't remember how many we had lost, but I remember that the team was a little bit on edge, and I had lunch that morning with one of our bullpen pitching coach, and he kind of said, hey, somebody's got to step up here. It's time. This team hasn't performed well over the last week or 10 days. I don't remember what the streak was, but he said, you need to go out and do your job tonight and give us a chance to win the game. And for whatever reason, it kind of clicked that night, and I had a really good game, and we won. And but it was very memorable for me. I remember that conversation. It was impactful. And, sometimes as starting pitcher, that's your job. You have to go out and just get it done. You have to put the game on your shoulders and say, hey, we're going to win tonight because I'm going to give us a chance to do that. And that's what I remember about that game, that impactful lunch with our pitching coach at the time.
Chris Young, you mentioned getting significantly over 500 a couple of minutes ago, perked a lot of ears up. Do you see the signs this team is ready for that, or are you hoping for that?
No, I think there are signs. I think we've played a lot of close games. And you can look back on even this past week at the games that we've lost, and they've all been really close. We've blown 2 ninth-inning leads. that cost us wins. We played a sloppy game in Oakland earlier last week that cost us a win. But our games have been tight. We're doing a lot of things really, really well. But I think the next step for us is starting to win those close games. I believe we're 3-10 in one-run games thus far. There's room for improvement there. I think that's part of a young team, is learning to win those close games. But I think we've got a great group that really believes, and they're starting to make adjustments. And I fully expect that we'll start in these late innings finding ways to win these games over the course of the season as our group gels together. But it's something that comes together. It takes a little bit of time, but I'm confident we'll get there.
Your club made a couple of roster moves yesterday, one of which was to designate Willie Calhoun for assignment. What made Willie the odd man out, and how tough is it to know when to move on from a guy that has the kind of upside and potential that we felt like Willie had for so long here within the organization?
Look, these are never easy decisions. We're invested in the player both professionally and personally. We want to see every one of our players excel and succeed. That said, I think JD said it best, that opportunity runs out at certain points, and we had to make a call. There was a need for position player. We felt like we went with guys that are going well right now in AAA. Certainly, we want the best for Willie. We hope that he can really work on some of the improvements that we've asked of him and think that could benefit him. But thus far, we haven't seen it to the degree we need to bring him back to the big leagues. So we had to make a call. We took Willie off the roster. We'll see what transpires over the next few days and if Willie remains a Ranger or not. But certainly these are not easy decisions, and we want the best for the player, for the person, for the organization, and sometimes those aren't perfectly aligned.
On the other side of that, you made the decision to bring up Steele Walker. I think a lot of Ranger fans were wondering, why Steele Walker over Leote?
Well, it's a great question. I think Steele has been going really well in AAA. Leote got off to a really hot start, did some things, was really impressive. He cooled off a little bit in the month of May. I think that the overall numbers in May weren't quite as bad as maybe they indicated. The peripheral numbers were still relatively solid, but I think the biggest thing in our decision with Leote is calling him up at a time at which he's going really good, where he's hot. He has confidence. He knows that he's stepping in and he's going to contribute immediately. And we felt like, just given the way he's gone the last couple of weeks, being in a little bit of a slump, it wasn't the perfect timing for him. We weren't setting him up for success. So when he comes up here, our goal is that he is staying here for a long time and that he is going to be a part of our future. So we want to set him up for success, and that was part of the decision to go with Steele over Leote this time.
Is Steele Walker your personal favorite name on the team at this point? Is there a better name that in all of your scouting days, does Steele Walker, does anybody beat that?
That's a really good name. There's some pretty good baseball names out there, but Steele Walker is near the top, I think. And whether it's a baseball player or maybe even a model, right?
Ooh, that's a good. Yeah.
Well, he plays with a ton of swagger. I don't know how much swag you feel like you had. Was there a particular part of your game that you felt like was the swaggiest?
My swag game was not good. I was more of a internal fiery competitor type that didn't really show the external swag, so to speak. So some guys can do that better than others. I was not one. I had to really internalize and almost play with a edge to me that sometimes the teammates they were afraid of me the days I pitched. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but nonetheless, I think Steele can sort of be one of the guys a little bit better than I could, and I appreciate that. I was not able to do that.
Okay, last time I got to catch up with you, you gave us a scouting report on your daughter's basketball team. What's the swag on that club?
They have some girls with swag. They can definitely keep up in the swag game, and they play with a little bit of an edge, but they like to have fun, and they like to celebrate when they do well. So it's one of the things I'm trying to balance as a father, is teaching an element of respect and sportsmanship with the joy of accomplishing great things on the court or on the field. So I don't know what the right balance is, and certainly in today's generation, they like to celebrate a little more than maybe I did as a kid. But I never want to lose the sportsmanship element of these youth sports and what those life lessons you get from that, and the failures you get on the court or the field are just as important as the successes.
I got a 10-year-old defensive hawk at point guard there in my daughter, Chris. If you guys need an extra guest player, just let me know.
I love it. I will. I'll take you up on that. We'll just we'll get that going. Maybe we'll play 2-on-2 with dads and daughters.
That would be I think you guys might have a little bit of an advantage there, but I'm up for it. Okay.
Well, you're my teammate.
There you go. All right, let's go. Hey, you mentioned that in your playing days, some of your teammates would be afraid of you on the days that you pitched. Have should today's players be a little bit afraid of you if they go out there and I don't know, give something up or have a regrettable moment at the plate?
No, I think actually I hope that our players find me very compassionate and empathetic. I recognize how hard this game was. When I say that the players were afraid of me and my teammates were afraid of me, it was more just the intensity and the focus I had. I wasn't very social. I didn't smile much the days I pitched. And that's what it took for me. I had to have that edge, that focus. But in terms of as a general manager, I'm very, very compassionate and empathetic to our players. I know how hard the game is. I know the struggles that they deal with. I know the failures that they go through and the challenges and how it impacts them away from the field, whether it's with their families, their sleep, their nutrition. There were days where I felt so bad that I had trouble eating because I knew that I was letting the team down if I wasn't performing at my best. So fully sympathetic to these guys. I really, really support them. I hope that they feel that way. I can't answer that perfectly, but I also have high standards too, and I know that when guys aren't doing everything they can to live up to the standards of what it takes to be good in this sport, I also recognize that as well. So there's a balance there, but in general, I think that they know how much I support them, how much I care, and we as an organization do care about them and want the best for them.
Yeah, so you just said it right there at the end. There's balance to that. So at this level, do you have to make sure that the players hurt when they don't have success, or how do you give that feedback to make sure they're motivated to not let it happen again?
Well, I think the biggest thing is understanding the players' accountability and awareness. That they're doing everything they possibly can, that they're open-minded, they're willing to learn and get better, and that they're giving their best effort. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that there are times where we feel like the players meet that standard, and there are times where maybe the players fall short there, and we want to help encourage them and point that out. And, I kind of referenced it a minute ago. There are times at which we have to really just take a hard look and say, is this a point in time at which we're not fully aligned in terms of what we expect for the player and what the player's capable and what the player's willing to do. But, by and large, if we do our jobs and select players that are going to maximize their potential, that are going to get the best of themselves, that fit our environment and our culture, those conversations are few and far between.
Rangers General Manager Chris Young with us here on the GBag Nation. I wanted to ask you about the bullpen and how much the guys in the bullpen might be competing to just stay on the rosters. You've got Jose Leclerc and Jonathan Hernandez looming, especially you also have the implementation of the max pitcher coming up as well.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I recognize there's always an element of kind of looking over your shoulder to some extent and not knowing what to expect and knowing you could be the odd man out depending on what the roster circumstances are. It could even be just a long extra inning game and the team needs an additional pitcher the next day. So that's a natural element. It's one of the things that probably fans don't quite understand, that these guys are always aware of who's going well at AAA and who's coming back off the injured list and what that means for their own individual roster spot, and still trying to balance that with the team element. So the bottom line is, if guys go out and perform, if guys go out and dominate, these decisions sort of take care of themselves. So that's the best advice I try to give our guys when they do have questions about that or they start to look over their shoulder a little bit is, hey, just go out and do your job and be the best you can be. And if you do that, it's all going to work out. And a lot of times they do it sorts itself out. So whether, between now and the time we bring Jonathan or Jose back, we may experience another injury. We may experience a trade. Who knows what can happen. So there's no sense in worrying about these things before the time is right. And I hope that that's what our players are able to do. We try to provide a support system that helps them with these things, but nonetheless, it's human nature, and I get it, and I understand it.
Chris, thanks so much for the great answers. Have an awesome week. Give them hell. We'll be pulling for you.
Guys, let's get some wins. I appreciate it.